there was lots and lots of two-wheel racing this weekend.
Why don't you talk to me about MotoGP?
Oh, MotoGP. Yeah, we can talk about MotoGP.
Did you not want to talk about MotoGP?
No, exactly. I wanted to talk about MotoGP.
Talk about MotoGP, which happened this weekend they were in?
At the Lusail International Circuit in Qatar.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes. So we didn't end up watching qualifying or sprint just because, as we've been saying, we've been in Long Beach all weekend. I usually like to watch the sprint races. You never, so that's nothing new for you. We tried to keep up to date with the results as they were coming in, so we were very much looking forward to watching the MotoGP race. We watched it a little bit delayed because we left Long Beach first, came home, and then we watched the MotoGP result at home, which was a very interesting race.
Yes. I thought it was awesome. It was a fantastic race.
Yes.
We had on the starting grid. Do you have it pulled up?
Yes, I do.
Okay, because I don't. If you could tell me.
Okay, yeah. So we have surprise. We had Marc Marquez in the front. I believe this is the starting grid. And then we have Alex Marquez, Fabio Quartararo, Frankie Morbidelli, Di Giannantonio, Viñales in 6th, which was very exciting. Zarco also in 7th, which is so nice to see him so close to the top. Then Aldeguer, the rookie, in 8th. Rins in 9th. Agura, the rookie, in 10th. Bagnaia, an unfortunate 11.
Yes.
But that doesn't stop Bagnaia from anything. And then Pedro Acosta in 12th. That's all as far as I have it, since that's the...
Can you tell me where Jorge Martin started? Jorge Martin, of course, the reigning champion, returned this weekend back to MotoGP for the very first time this season. And I do believe he started in
17,
yes, or 18. So he unfortunately didn't have a really good sprint race. He didn't score any points over there. However,
no, he started in 14th.
14th, but
yes.
still outside of the points. Yes. So I think maybe the sprint race he started at that point. But then the start of the race, immediately we got a bunch of stuff that happened.
Yes.
We have Marc Marquez. I thought he actually had a good start.
Yeah, he looked like he came off the line incredibly fast, but it seemed like he wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of people who had an excellent start. Most surprising of all, but a pleasant surprise, was Frankie Morbidelli was all of a sudden in the front, leading the charge of the Grand Prix, which was super exciting to see. Yes.
Before that, however, we had the two Marquez brothers getting a little bit too close together.
Oh, okay. I thought Frankie was already in the front when that happened, but that's okay.
Oh, I thought they got together and then Frankie a little bit
Doesn't
later.
matter.
Either way.
The brothers got together.
Yes. Mark actually definitely picked up some damage from his bike. Something fell off. And then I think something was also wrong with Alex's bike, because he ended up dropping back quite a bit. And then he ended up having that collision with another driver.
With Gigi.
With Gigi. So unfortunate.
Yeah.
Which caused Gigi to lose a lot of points. He ended up going from 12th to 20th after that incident. Yeah. And Alex ended up actually getting a long lap penalty, which he immediately apologized, because he was like, yo, this was my bad.
Yeah.
Which it was.
Yeah, his hand went up immediately, so you could see.
Unfortunately, he was able to re-enter the race or the track much more easily than DG. And then
DG also had 2 other clashes with other people. He just
race.
Went from unlucky to worse.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like I mentioned, we had Frankie Morbidelli all of a sudden leading the charge.
Yes.
And then coming through the grid, coming up the ranks, was all of a sudden Maverick.
Yes.
Maverick Viñales in his KTM coming through the ranks. And I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, of course, last year he had won Coda in the Aprilia. This year we hadn't seen too much of him.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, and he's in his 4th different constructor. And so seeing him coming through the ranks was really exciting. And then all of a sudden he was battling Bagnaia, who also very excitingly made it through insane start. He made it through the ranks really, really fast. Like we said, he has started in 11th, and within 2 laps, he was within the top 4, top 3 even.
Yeah.
And then we saw Maverick coming through the ranks. All of a sudden he was battling with Bagnaia, then he was battling with Mark, and then all of a sudden he was leading the charge of the race. Frankie, unfortunately, maybe he was pushing too hard right from the get-go or so, but he started losing positions. He lost his position to Maverick, to Mark, and then also Bagnaia. And then he kind of stayed in that area where he ended up also fighting a lot with, or battling with Zarco, which is also so nice to see that he was in the top 5 fighting for position. Which is also nice because it's a Honda. He's on a Honda. He's not on a Ducati. And the Ducatis have, of course, been the dominant team so far.
I will also say, Mark did say that in his post-race interview that when he saw that Morbidelli was kind of taking off, he was like, I already expected him to drop off because I didn't expect his tire to last that long.
Yeah, because it was the same thing in the sprint, apparently. Yeah. The same kind of thing. He used up his, I think it was the rear tire too much and then just lost traction, which ended up having to Bagnaia too. He ended up not losing position, but there was just a little bit more time between them at the end.
Yeah, there seems something to be going on with Mark and the bike. And this I'm saying this and it make it sound like there's something fishy going on, but it just seems like even though Mark is for the first time on the Ducati and Bagnaia has been on the Ducati for a while, Mark and the bike seem to be getting along really, really well because Mark seems to be able to take care of his tires and like a lot of times he's managing the race almost from second place, whereas he's like, I'm perfectly fine sitting right here for a while and letting someone else lead the race, and then I will make my pounce. And it's very fascinating.
Yes.
It's also, you definitely see Mark's confidence in the post-race interviews now, which I'm not like, I think it's really awesome to see that because he's very much like, yeah, I saw this and I knew this was going to happen.
Well, it's also, it just shows what an intelligent rider he
is.
100%. Like it shows, of course, his experience. He's been competitive for such a long time. I mean, he's a multiple-time world champion, but then it just shows. It's not luck.
No,
anything. It's pure. It's knowledge. It's experience. It's he's like fusing with that machine, and it happens so fast. So it's just really fun to watch.
It is fun, as a Marquez fan. It's fun to watch.
Of course,
I could see as if you're other fan, it's probably not as much fun to see.
But then so Maverick Viñales was in the front for quite a long time, and then he had issues previously with it in the corners occasionally, so he ended up going wide, and then Mark ended up taking back his first position.
Yeah, he was like, I'll take that invitation easily.
Exactly, which is understandable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get into the podium, I also wanted to give just my heartfelt, not condolences, but I'm just like,
your heart goes out for Jorge Martin.
For Jorge Martin, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just so heartbreaking. He started in 11th. He fell back, I think, a couple of positions. I mean, it's his first weekend on the bike. And then he ended up falling with, I think, the 13th lap or with 13 laps to go. I think it was in the 13th lap. And
quite badly, too.
Yeah, the bike was on top of him. They were sliding across the floor for a little bit. And then he was just on his knees with his hands on the ground. And at first, I wasn't sure if it was just him being devastated and sad, frustrated that it happened, or was it maybe potentially truly an injury? And then we saw very slightly on the side of the frame when the guys came around that there was the medical team there. And then now, of course, we heard the heartbreaking news that he's not doing so well. I mean, maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, so he broke 6 of his ribs on the right side.
Well, he fractured 6. Yeah,
that's right. That's broken. Then his lungs partially collapsed.
Yes.
Or were about to. So he's gonna have to stay in the hospital for a couple of days. And so And then overall, he's that's pretty banged up.
Yeah.
I don't think you need anything more than that.
Yeah.
He had just broken his left wrist at the preseason testing. So the one thing that I wanted to say about this situation, and I had this thought after I saw the sprint results. Or after the qualifying results. Either way, right? He clearly wasn't where he needed to be, right?
He came back too soon.
And yes, because I did see a interview with him, Marc Marquez, and I think it was Bagnaia. And Mark was asking him, "Oh, so are you back 100%?" And he was like, "No, I think far from it." And I'm like, I understand that Jorge is probably pushing to wanting to be back on the bike and getting back into the fight, but at the cost of this, like, of course, like it's easy for me to sit here and be like, well, it wasn't obviously not worth it, but I thought you could already tell after qualifying, and of course he didn't get any practice time on the bike, right? They denied that, but like clearly he wasn't where he needed to be, right? And he wasn't scoring any points. So even if he would have finished 15th, right, outside of the points today, without crashing, right, it's like you didn't really gain anything for the championship. Like knowledge about the bike, right? That is besides the point. But it just seemed like a little bit. I think the risk was too high, and we saw what is now. I don't know if he fell because he was in pain, because it was an unforced error. Like no one else was involved. So, and of course, in a sport like this, it does happen quite a lot.
Which makes the sport so exciting, because it can happen at any moment.
And usually, it's not as dramatic. I will say usually they will slide out and they'll little banged up.
But clearly he wasn't fine yet. So then the repercussions of what happened when he did slide are just so much more severe, especially because, you automatically land on your hand. So immediately it would maybe potentially hurt your already not completely healed wrist. And then, of course, with the ribs and... it's just so heartbreaking, because we've been, of course, as many of you, I'm sure, have been rooting for Jorge to come back, to have a possibility to fight, to keep his world champ, or to like get a back-to-back driver championship, which was already like
a stretch,
because Mark, is running away with it right now.
Or missing 4 races. Or 3 races, right? It's a huge stretch.
It's a lot to catch up. But it's just even more heartbreaking to have him just come back and then immediately get hurt again.
The next race is in 2 weeks.
Oh, it's not this upcoming weekend?
It's on the 27th.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But with 6 broken ribs and a partially collapsed lung.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to be back in 2 weeks, and this is only the new injuries, right? Because on one hand, fortunately, he fell kind of on his right side, which the left side was the one that was hurting before. Now both sides probably hurting.
Oh my God.
But we also don't know if any of existing injuries, if his wrist got worse and stuff like that. And it's so heartbreaking, because I said this last year that I was rooting for Bagnaia, because I do have this thing that I like champions to be able to fight for their championship again, right? And then even though last year I was rooting for Pecco, I wanted Jorge to have that chance. And this year is clearly not going to happen, right? But I do hope that when he comes back next year, he'll come back this year sometime, but he's not fighting, but that he will have an honest chance to actually make a go for the championship again.
I agree. But let's get back to the end results of this race. Originally, the podium was Marc Marquez, Maverick Viñales, and then Pecco Bagnaia. Unfortunately, as soon as Maverick crossed the finish line, we got a notification. The world of MotoGP got a notification that Maverick's bike is being investigated for tire pressure. And then, unfortunately, he ended up getting a 16 penalty or 16-second penalty, which of course ended up taking his second place away.
Did you see how far down he fell?
No.
You haven't looked yet?
He ended up... you
have to scroll quite far, right?
So he went from 2nd to 14th, which is such a heartbreak. And also, just quickly, I just love that moment when...
in the post-race interview?
Yeah, when Mark was saying also like, oh, he had seen the KTM and he was like, oh yeah, it's Pedro Acosta because he's usually the fastest KTM. And then all of a sudden he looked again and he saw it was Maverick, which of course is exciting. So it's just like, it just emphasized what a huge moment it is. And also just for Maverick's career, it's his fourth constructor. It's his fourth constructor that he's on the podium with now too, or was. And then for that to be taken away. However, maybe this shows the potential of the KTM bike, you know?
Yes, especially because you said that, right? He's not even on the main KTM bike.
He's not
That's
on
crazy.
Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe so it definitely has me a little excited moving forward. So the final podium ended up being Marc Marquez, Pecco Bagnaia, and then in third ended up coming Frankie Morbidelli. Then we have in fourth Zarco, Aldeguer in fifth,
Awesome.
Alex came in sixth, which was fantastic after his long lap penalty.
Yeah, especially like he lost so many points. Then he had that second incident.
Yeah.
Right? He was quite far back. He was outside of the top 10.
Yeah.
He got the long lap penalty and then he fought his way back up. And it's really exciting. I know that obviously his older brother is taking all the light and the spotlight, right? He takes up. But Alex is having the season of his career, right?
At least for the top MotoGP category, I'd argue.
Yes,
yeah.
for the top, for like his MotoGP career, and it's really awesome to see that because I'm still hoping that he will get that win in there. It would be awesome if he could do a 1-2 with Mark.
Yeah.
But this time he would get to the top step. But I think also Mark would really love that to
Yes.
be there when his brother wins.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm really hoping that like 10 points he still got at the end of the day. That's it. That's a lot of points that he made up that he could have lost out on, you know, because Mark fell off the bike, right? And he lost all the points.
Yeah.
So this is not bad at all.
No, not at all. So that's exciting.
Do you have the overall results for the championship?
Standings. Yes, give me 1 second. Okay, so here overall rider championship so far. So Marc Marquez is first with 123 points. 17 points below him is his brother, Alex Marquez, and then Pecco Bagnaia is in third, and then we have two VR46s following them, which is Frankie Morbidelli and then Di Gianantonio, and then sixth we have Zarco, which is also very exciting.
I will say I thought it was a little bit of a bummer that Morbidelli didn't get to go onto the podium.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's always such an awesome moment to be on the podium, and Valentino was there too. It would have been really awesome if they would have been able to celebrate that moment together. I will also say, I think it's really interesting. So 26 points sounds like a lot, right?
Yeah.
Bagnaia is 26 points away from Marc Marquez. But this is really you winning one race and Mark falling off the bike again, right? That's 25 points right there. Not that I want this to happen, but I think it's still quite tight.
Yeah, it's not worlds away yet. It's still definitely doable. I mean, Mark fell off the bike last time.
Yeah, and not that once again I don't want this to happen again.
No, but it's easy.
It's in MotoGP world. It is a thing.
Yes, definitely.
So